Scientology's Facebook police. Who are they and what do they do? My name is Phil Jones. I was in Scientology for almost 40 years and been out for over 10 years and exposing their abuses and protesting against their abuses ever since. Who are the Scientology Facebook police? Typically, they're self-appointed public Scientologists who have taken on the moral superiority of monitoring other public Scientologists on Facebook to make sure they're behaving and acting in a manner that Scientology would approve of. They're often higher on the bridge. They might be OT or even as high as OT8s that they take it on, and they'll often be somewhat connected to Office of Special Affairs, which is the spy division of and dirty tricks division of Scientology. So these people, what they do, so what do the Facebook police do? They will monitor other Scientologists, other public Scientologists' Facebook friends list to make sure they're not connected to anybody that is persona non grata in Scientology. So if they see someone that has a friend on their friends list that has either left Scientology or criticized Scientology, they'll say to the person who's got them on their friends list, you need to unfriend them. And if they don't do that, then they can be subject to ethics handlings, or they might have to go in and see the ethics officer or chaplain and get straightened away if they refuse to unfriend them. Usually people will just unfriend them if they don't want to lose their other, their livelihood and whatnot. So, and it can result even in being declared. I mean, if somebody refuses to disconnect from another an ex-Scientologist on Facebook, then, and they won't go and see the ethics officer or get straightened away or whatever, then Scientology would just declare them. And for what? Just for having the wrong friend on their friends list, or, failing to just disconnect from that person. So, and this is what happened with Willie and I. We had our friends list on Facebook, and some years ago, one day, I think it was after Debbie Cook, who was the executive director at FLAG, which is the main Scientology facility in Florida. She had made this big statement about against Scientology, and she was kind of persona non grata at that point. Well, my sister sent us a note saying, well, you need to unfriend Debbie Cook from your friends list. So I did. We had her on our friends list, but I don't think I'd even met her before, so it was not a big deal to me. And then a few months later, it was another one, and my sister wrote back. My sister was one of these Facebook police, by the way, just so you know. She had a copy of my friends list and was obviously just monitoring who I was friends with. And, spending all that time, I mean, she must sit there on her computer and just kind of pouring through. And she would have also had to know who was in bad graces with Scientology in order for her to know who I was friends with on Facebook, to know that. Anyway, so she sent me another note saying, I'm friend with this person. And there was a couple here, a couple there I did, because sometimes you have people on your friends list that you don't really know that well. And then one day she told us, well, you need to unfriend from this family who had left Scientology. And this was a family we'd known for like 25 years, and they were really nice people, not suppressive people, not evil people. So and at one point I just said, I need to put my foot down. And I told my sister, I said, no, you can't tell us who to be friends with or who not to be friends with or anything like that. So I didn't unfriend them, and I refused to do it. So my sister ended up writing a report to FLAG, to the ethics officer at FLAG in Scientology. And then basically overnight, we were disconnected from ourselves. They must have contacted all our friends and relatives and everybody. And overnight, they unfriended us, blocked us. We were blocked, not just unfriended on Facebook, but we were blocked. My brother, my sister, all their kids. We were just totally cut off, and even business-wise, that we were just, and from what? We were basically, because we had friends that had left Scientology. I don't think they had criticized Scientology. I think their son might have. But just for having some friends that had left Scientology and refusing to unfriend them on Facebook, that's what triggered us getting kicked out of Scientology and ultimately declared. So, and that's all it took. So, yeah, I mean, it's a minor little thing. That's a bee flying around my head. There's a lot of bees around here. Save the bees. Anyway, so, but the thing is that what it means is that it's very arbitrary for who gets declared and who doesn't get declared. It's not, if you look in Scientology ethics book, when Hubbard talks about the suppressive person, he's got a whole list of characteristics of what a suppressive person is like, all these personality traits. And when a person in Scientology gets declared, they don't go through any of that. They don't look and say, well, does he have this characteristic and that characteristic, all of these characteristics, many of them. And then, sorry, I don't want to get stung. But, and some of them are like really sort of silly ones. I mean, one of them is, you know, that they speak in generalities. And another is that they're mainly dealing in bad news and they're critical. Everybody's a little critical at times. And another one is that they worsen communication. If they get a message, they'll make it worse and pass it on that way. Another one what's interesting is that Hubbard says in the list of characteristics that the suppressive person doesn't respond to treatment or reform or psychotherapy. And it's interesting he put psychotherapy in there because he was so against any psychotherapy or psychiatrists or psychiatry, anything like that. But I've seen people come out of Scientology and get therapy and do very well by it and show real good improvement. I've never seen that in Scientology. From Scientology, people will say they got better and they'll go through these kind of weird, fluffy wins like, oh, my space feels better and I feel more at cause in life. And you know, and I was able to find a parking spot when I drove to work yesterday. And it was like, they're just like the dumbest wins you ever heard. They're not ability. Scientology says they make the able more able. They don't make the able more able. I've never seen any of that. And even the abilities that were bragged about in the book Dianetics back in the 50s, no one in Scientology has ever attained any of those characteristics that I've ever seen. There's a few more. I won't list them all out on these characteristics, but one of them is that the suppressive person habitually selects the wrong target. If the radio next door is too loud, he or she kicks the cat. And that's just dumb. It's like okay, first of all, I've never seen that anything like that. I mean, maybe a wrong target. You know, sometimes it happens if you get incorrect information and you're kind of saying, oh, this person might have been the one that caused that. But once you get the correct information, you go, oh, well, wait a minute, it wasn't that person. It must have been that person that caused that. But anyway, there's a lot of different characteristics. But my point being on that is that when they're declaring someone, they never go through all this. They never read it before that. It's just, oh, you have the wrong friends list, person on the friends list, and you made a little critical statement, so therefore you're being declared, and that's it. So very arbitrary. And so, you know, Facebook police, they're still out there, maybe not as much as they used to be from when we first got kicked out, but I think they're still around. I have had all our Scientologists have all not just unfriended us, but blocked us. So I don't really see it anymore. So I haven't really been able to notice if people are getting those kind of messages or not. But anyway, where we are today, this is the Welland Canal, and it runs between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Ships coming from Lake Superior, where they have forestry and they have mining, these big freighter ships, they come down through Lake Superior, through Lake Huron, Lake Champlain, Lake Erie, and from Lake Erie they take this canal, and there's these huge locks that bring them down lower altitude until they get to Lake Ontario, and from Lake Ontario they go out the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Atlantic Ocean, and from there wherever. It's just, and there's cruise ships that come down here as well that cruise through the Great Lakes. Some good-sized cruise ships come through here. And sometimes smaller boats you see coming through here as well. It's the only really canal between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. So if someone wants to take their boat through, they can do it that way if they can't trailer it. But anyway, beautiful day today. Here we are. It's sort of almost 70 degrees and sunny, somewhat sunny. and warm and a little windy, but beautiful day. And thank you so much for joining and listening in. Love you all. Thank you.